Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited to start filming this video, and this is essentially going to be part 2 of a series that I've kind of started on this channel where I binge read a bunch of one of my favorite booktubers' favorite romances. And so today's featured booktuber is Riley from Riley Marie. I will of course link her channel down in the description below. She has been one of my absolute favorite booktubers to follow for a very long time. She has a similar reading taste to my own in that she reads mostly romance of all kinds of different subgenres, but she also reads books of other genres as well. But she very recently made a video about her top 10 all-time favorite romance novels. And when I was watching that video, I realized that I have read 5 of the books that she featured in that video, but I haven't read the other 5. And so I thought that this would be the perfect topic for a binge reading vlog. So I am going to read the 5 books that were featured in that video that I have not read yet. And what I also liked about that video is that she broke it down into different categories of romances. So she did 2 historical romances, I believe 2 novellas, I want to say 2 contemporary romances, 2 dark romances. So when I eventually make a video about my personal all-time favorite romances, I'm definitely planning on taking her model because I've just really enjoyed that. So first of all, highly recommend watching that video of hers and also just checking out her channel if you somehow haven't yet, because she is quite popular on BookTube and in the romance community for sure. I'm super excited about all of the books that I'm reading for this vlog because they're all romances that have been on my radar, but they just keep getting pushed aside for one reason or another. And so this is the perfect time to finally read these books that I've been so excited about. So I'm just going to talk about the romances as I get to them, but the first book that I decided to read from her video is Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. This is a historical romance that I believe takes place in like the medieval era in Scotland. It isn't explicitly stated, but that's the vibe that I get from this. This is a book that I went into with both very high expectations and like no expectations at the same time, because while this book in particular is raved about so much, not just by Riley, but several booktubers that I'm friends with and I follow. I know Crystal loves this one, Jess loves this one, and I'm sure there's others. But I've read 2 Maya Banks books at this point before going into this one, and they were not great experiences for me, unfortunately. I haven't had great experiences with Maya Banks, but I have to say, I am adoring this book. I am just about 40% of the way through at this point. I do have both the audiobook and the ebook version, and it's so good. So let me just tell you a little bit of what this book is about. We have Evelyn and Graham. They are people from opposing clans, very much opposing clans. Like, these clans have been at war with each other in the past. They do not like each other. And so the King of Scotland decrees that Evelyn and Graham get married, so it is an arranged marriage, so that these clans can bury the hatchet. And what's also interesting about the story is that Evelyn is actually deaf. She had an accident, I want to say like 3-ish years before the novel started, where she fell off of her horse, and that actually caused her to go deaf, and she has not gained back her hearing since then. And so because she's deaf, everybody basically thinks that she is mentally impaired in some way, and she's afraid to set the record straight about her intelligence because she was betrothed to a really awful man before her accident. And so now that she is viewed to be mentally impaired, she got out of that betrothal. But she meets Graham, our hero, and something that's really sweet is that with her deafness, she can faintly hear really low timbres, really low voices, and that's the kind of voice that Graham has. And so she's immediately like mesmerized by him and his speaking voice. And that was just really adorable the first time that they met, that she just wants to hear him talk all the time. And so they've gotten married. She now lives at his keep, and we're seeing that the members of his clan do not like her because she was a member of the opposing clan. And so he has had to stand up for her. So the part where I left off is where he has finally figured out that Evelyn is actually deaf and she's not mentally impaired at all. And I'm just absolutely loving this, and I'm so glad that doing this vlog has forced me to finally pick this book up, because this is a historical romance that has been on my radar for so long, because like I said, I know so many people that just love this book. So really excited to jump back into this one, and I think that's going to be it for this reading update, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. So I did finish Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks last night, and I really loved it. Like, easily one of the sweetest romances I've ever read. Like, from the moment that Evelyn and Graham meet, it is just so sweet and wholesome. And yeah, this is one of those romances that's definitely low angst in terms of the relationship between the two main characters, but the drama comes from like people in his clan not wanting to accept Evelyn, and they kind of put her through a lot of shit, which made me kind of sad. And then there's definitely lots of drama happening towards the end of this one. Yeah, I totally see why Riley loves this one. I'm glad that I read this book after not enjoying two of Maya Banks's other books. This book definitely redeemed her for me in my eyes, so I might have to read a couple of her other books in the future. We'll just have to see. So in terms of what I am now reading, I decided to go into Killing Sarai by J.A. Redmersky. I believe that this is Riley's either favorite dark romance or one of her favorite darker romances, which that's definitely what this is. And that's why I decided to read this one next after reading such a sweet and wholesome romance. I wanted to definitely change things up. This is a book that has also been on my radar for a while, but it wasn't a book that I was going to read anytime soon, if not for doing this vlog. So wow, the plot of this one, we have our main character Sarai. She was taken 9 years ago by this Mexican drug lord. So now she's 23, I believe, and then this guy, this American, Victor, Sarai is also American. This guy, Victor, shows up to the compound to make a deal with Javier, who is the drug lord that is keeping Sarai. And so Sarai takes this as her chance to finally get out. And so she hides in his car. He immediately catches her. Victor, immediately catches her, and now they are on the run. A little bit more about this plot is that Victor then decides to use Sarai as leverage as opposed to just giving her back to Javier, because Javier and Victor made a deal. Victor's an assassin, and so they made a deal that Javier would pay him like $3.5 million to kill somebody, but Sarai tells Victor that Javier never goes through with his deals. Like, he never pays people what he tells him he's going to pay. So in order to get payment, Victor is using Sarai as leverage. So I hope that all makes sense. A little bit of a complicated plot at this point, but I am just about 20% of the way through, and they just crossed the border into the United States, and I think they're now in Arizona, I believe. So it sounds like this is just gonna be them on the run the entire time from this drug lord. Victor is definitely your kind of typical dark, broody, very serious, very straight-laced anti-hero kind of romance hero. And Sarai is like kind of trying to get to know him, but he's not really telling her anything. So yeah, this is the one book out of all the books that I'm reading for this vlog that I am going into with the least expectations, the lowest expectations, I guess you can say, because dark romances can be very hit or miss for me. So we'll see if I like this one. I like the writing style so far, and I like these two main characters. I like the suspenseful aspect to it. I haven't read a ton of romantic suspense novels. That's another subgenre for me that tends to be hit or miss. I've enjoyed some, but some not so much. So I'm just looking forward to diving right back into this one, and hopefully I enjoy it. We'll see if I love it just as much as Riley does. Hey guys, I am looking a mess right now. My lipstick is like almost completely gone because I just ate dinner, and the only reason why I am even done up right now, like my makeup, my hair was also done and looking beautiful, but it's been raining a lot today. So yeah, the second I stepped outside, my hair just went to shit. But yeah, I had my makeup and hair done today because I actually had an audition for, there's a local theater that is doing Cinderella the musical. So I went to audition for one of the stepsisters, and the audition went really well, by the way. The audition panel was very entertained by me, which is what I'm always going for when going for a character role like a stepsister. They were laughing a lot, and yeah, so that went really well. But yeah, because it's just been raining, my hair looks like poo. And yeah, I just ate some Cane's for dinner, and if you don't know, Cane's is like the love of my life. It's my favorite fast food place ever. I don't care if that makes me sound basic. I already know that I'm basic, and that's fine. So last night I finished Killing Sarai by J.A. Redmersky. So I need to point something out about this book because I rewatched Riley's, top favorite romances video. It turns out that it's not necessarily this book that's one of her top 10 favorites. It's that the series as a whole is like her favorite dark romance series ever. And I remember her in particular mentioning books 3 and 5 are her absolute favorites of this series. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I know I already went into the plot in my last update, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But this is not really a romance novel. There's like a dash of romance thrown in because this is an entire series that I believe the entire series centers around Sarai and Victor, our 2 main characters. So there's not going to be a ton of development going on in the romance in just book 1 because their romance has to be stretched out in like, I think there's at least 6 books, maybe 7 books in this series. So this was not what I expected it to be. I thought going into this that this series was going to be more of a companion series and that like each book was going to be about a different couple, but it seems to me that the entire series is about Sarai and Victor. I think I have that right. So I was really enjoying the first half of this, but towards the end, once it became apparent to me that the romance wasn't going to be the central plot and that there wasn't going to be a happily ever after at the end, I definitely found myself losing interest. And to be honest, like, I liked Sarai and Victor well enough, but I don't love them enough to feel motivated to continue on with the series. I don't really have much more to say about this. This was just fine, and like I said, I gave it 3 stars. Not motivated to continue on with the series, so there's just not much more to discuss. So then the next book that I decided to go into today, once I got up, is Transcendence by Shay Savage. This is a book that I can't believe it's taken me this long to finally get to. It is such a popular indie romance, and I'll get into the plot in a minute, but I know that Bree loves this. Riley, of course, loves this one. So I'm glad that she featured this in her all-time favorites video because I definitely would not have picked up this book as soon as I did if she had not featured it. So this is very interesting because we are following the perspective of a caveman, and this woman seemingly time travels to his time and his place. And so I'm just about 23% of the way through right now, and this book is just kind of weird. It does give me vibes of Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, especially the first book in that series, because Ed, our hero who's the caveman, and then our heroine Elizabeth, they have no way of communicating with each other. So all this book is body language between the 2 of them. What's also odd is that we are not getting the perspective of the heroine, Elizabeth, at all. We are seeing this entire story through Ed, the caveman's point of view, and I find that very strange. But I know there's a reason why Bree and Riley and so many other people that I follow love this book. So I'm definitely going into it with an open mind, but I'm not loving it at the moment just because I'm like, what is happening? And like, how are they going to get to a point where they can actually communicate with each other? That just seems impossible at the moment. Whereas in Ice Planet Barbarians, there was a very clear solution to that problem, so that the humans could communicate with the aliens, but in this case, it's a very different situation. So yeah, I'm about to go take off this makeup and jump right back into Transcendence, and then I will let you guys know my thoughts tomorrow. So, reading update, I finished Transcendence by Shea Savage just a little while ago, and I'm giving it 3 stars as well. I'm so sad that I've had 2 3-star reads in a row for this vlog. Like, you guys have no idea how much I wanted to love this book in particular, because some of my favorite booktubers absolutely adore this book, and I can totally see why. There is, you know, there are some very sweet and wholesome moments throughout. I think Ed is a really great hero. There's a scene in this book that so many people talk about, and I totally see why, where our heroine Beth gets her period, and because we're in prehistoric times, she doesn't have pads or anything, she doesn't have access to anything like that, and so Ed fashions a sort of pad for her, and I agree that that was a very sweet scene. Definitely one of the highlights of the novel for me. But all of that being said, there were some things that at the end of the day just kind of took me out of the story. For one thing, this is almost exclusively in Ed the caveman's point of view. We get Beth's POV at the very, very end for the epilogue, but that epilogue doesn't really add all that much to the story. The epilogue is essentially what should have been the prologue. Basically. It's basically what happens right before she ends up time traveling. So because this whole story is basically in Ed's point of view, I felt like I was missing half the story. Most of the story is very domestic in that it's Ed describing that, oh, I went hunting and then we did this and then we did that. Like, most of it is very much like a day-to-day life. But a very primitive life, because like I've already said, this takes place in prehistoric times, so I found that to get pretty boring. Unfortunately, I did kind of start zoning out. I will say the ending, or more like the last, I would say 20% of this book, gets very interesting, because there's kind of like new characters introduced, and there's just really interesting things happening in the story, but I don't want to spoil any of that. But most of this book just ends up being very ordinary, I guess you could say, because like I already said, it's all about their day-to-day life. Something else that took me out of the story is that we see Ed and Beth live together for years and years and years, and I find it very unbelievable that over the years these two people never came up with a common language, or like Beth didn't teach Ed English or anything like that, because even years later they still don't really know how to communicate with one another, except for like 3 words that she taught him towards the beginning of the novel. So yeah, I ended up giving this 3 stars. I really wanted to love this more than I did. I can see why Riley and Bree and others love this story so much. I will say this is a very unique story, and I do think that it is kind of an epic love story too, because this story does span years and years and years that we're following these 2 people. Yeah, I don't know. I just think this story could have been so much more if we would have gotten the heroine's POV, and if Beth and Ed would have found a way to communicate with each other over the course of the novel, but that's just not what happened. So yeah, there's all my thoughts on Transcendence, and then we just have 2 books left for this vlog actually, and they are actually both novellas, because one of the categories that Riley had in her top 10 favorites is novellas, and so her 2 favorites are Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert. This is book 1 in her Touch of Taboo series. This is a series that I've been meaning to get to for quite some time. It sounds like something that is going to be right up my alley. I'll get into the plot of this when I actually read it. And then the other novella that I'm really excited about is Go Deep by Rilzy Adams. This is a Friends to Lovers novella that I've heard, again, nothing but phenomenal things about. So I really hope that reading these 2 novellas is going to end this reading vlog on a high note. I'm very excited about both of these novellas, and they both sound like something that's going to be right up my alley. So yeah, with that being said, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, it is pretty late on Sunday night. It's just about 11:15, so almost Monday, but it is definitely time to do a final reading update and wrap up for this vlog. I did end up reading both of the novellas that I mentioned in my previous update. So the first one was Go Deep by Rilzy Adams. This is a friends to lovers romance between our heroine Nevaeh. I'm pretty sure that's how her name is pronounced. What's really cool is that she is actually a romance novella author, and I thought that was really cool to follow a character like that. And so basically the last couple of novellas that she has released have not been doing well, and they have been getting really bad reviews from people that used to love her novellas. So obviously something is not going right with her writing lately, and she has felt very uninspired because she herself hasn't been in a relationship in over a year, probably a year and a half. And then she has her best friend Xander. They have been BFFs their entire lives, and they're now like 30 or 31, I think. And she basically asks him if he will start a sexual relationship with her so that she can get some inspiration for her novellas again, and the plot goes on from there. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really fun time. Also a very solid friends to lovers romance. If that's one of your favorite tropes, I think you'd really enjoy this one just like I did. I actually don't have much to say about this one other than, like I said, it was very solid. I definitely want to check out more from Rilzy Adams. I saw that she does have quite the backlist, and I assume that she also writes novellas like her character Nevaeh, but I'm not really sure. So I finished that earlier today because I started that one kind of late last night, finished it earlier today. Then I kind of jumped right into Your Dad Will Do by Katie Robert, and I think it's absolutely hilarious that I read this today because today is Father's Day and I did not plan that. It just so happened to happen that way. So I'm just living my best life reading this erotic novella about someone's dad. So there's that. To tell you the premise of this one's pretty ridiculous. It actually gives me vibes of a Jessica Cain novella because of the ridiculous plot and also just how like addicting it was. Like I could not put this novella down until I finished it. But the plot is we have Lily, our heroine, and she has been engaged to this guy, Max, but then she finds out that he has been cheating on her with his secretary. Like she catches him in the act. And so to get back at him, she decides to seduce his father. So yeah, things go on from there. Things start happening between Lily and Max's dad, whose name is Shane, pretty soon after this novella starts. Yeah, this is definitely erotica because the sex scenes are the central plot, I guess you could say. But there is also like a relatively low angst romance going on between Shane and Lily. We see throughout the novella that these two people have had a really strong connection for years, ever since her and Max started dating, because they would spend a lot of time at Shane's house and they just started bonding over different things. And so they've kind of always been attracted to one another. And so now that Max is out of the picture, they can act on those feelings, however taboo they might be. And yes, this series is called the Touch of Taboo series, which is perfect for this novella at least. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. You guys probably know by now, Katie Robert is quickly becoming one of my new favorite authors. This one I do think is quite a bit different from most of the other books that I've read by her in that, like I said, this is erotica. Whereas the other romances that I've read by her, there was a bit more plot going on. Whereas in this novella, it really was about the sex, and that's fun too, you know? She knows how to write those kinds of scenes, so I totally see why Riley adores this novella so much. This is like the filthiest book I've ever read, and that's really saying something because I read a lot of smutty romances. Yeah, Katie Robert is the smut queen. I highly recommend this novella. I'm really excited to read the other novellas in this little series as well. I'm also really excited to eventually read her, it's like a vampire poly romance series. I know the first book in that series is called Sacrifice. Can't wait to read that. Can't wait to get into her Sabine Valley series. I mean, I am just obsessed with this woman. Like, I guess I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts on everything, and I guess I'll also rank the books that I read for this vlog. So yeah, I read Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks, gave this one 5 stars. Really loved this. Such a sweet historical romance, so good. After that I read Killing Sarai, gave that one 3 stars. You guys know my thoughts. After that read Transcendence, gave that 3 stars as well. Then Go Deep, gave that 4 stars. Like I said, a really good friends to lovers novella. And then finally we have Your Dad Will Do. Had to give it 5 stars. And in terms of ranking these books, it's kind of tough because Transcendence and Killing Sarai, I have very similar feelings about in terms of like how much I enjoyed the books. I kind of want to put Transcendence at the bottom and then Killing Sarai, because Killing Sarai had a lot of like suspense going on. So it's not like I could ever get bored while reading that book, whereas with Transcendence I did find myself getting bored and like zoning out. So I think Transcendence, then Killing Sarai, and Go Deep, because I gave that one 4 stars. And I think above that I'm gonna put Never Seduce a Scot, and then my favorite read of this reading vlog is gonna have to be Your Dad Will Do. Absolutely fantastic. I am trash for Katie Robert. I am a Katie Robert stan. Yes. So this was just such a fun vlog to do. I really loved reading some of Riley's absolute favorite romances of all time. I can kind of tell that Riley and I have similar reading tastes, but at the same time we are 2 very different people. Sometimes there's going to be the books that she loves that I didn't love, and that's totally fine. I totally see why she loved both like Transcendence and then that series that Killing Sarai is a part of, but for reasons that I've already explained, those books just didn't quite work for me. That's my thoughts on everything. I would love it if you guys would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video. So with all of that being said, I would love it if you guys would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!